booksellers and enjoy discounts, prizes, and more at 37 local indie shops. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TheGailey Show. Welcome to The Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer Jim Pound.
Hey, all.
And Brett. Brett has been my savior today, technologically wise,
Wow.
in the studio.
Yeah, just so you know ahead of time, you've recorded about a show and a half before this one. So
Wow.
Right? It has been a day. A day.
It's like the gulag.
It's Wednesday. Everything's gonna be clear sailing after today, and it's all gone brilliantly. Thank you, Brett, for doing all of that for us. Our call-in number 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. What is on the show today? We are proud to announce our official partnership with Chicago's Windy City Times. So starting today and then every other Wednesday, their managing editor, Jake Wittich, will be here to share the latest in the Windy City Times award-winning journalism. So that will be in the second half hour of the show. Speaking of Chicago, we have an announcement to share. Also on the show, there is new polling about the economy, and it's enough to make you pull your hair out and scream. Also, Representative Robert Garcia just got back from El Salvador with several other House Democrats to check on gay makeup artist Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, who was wrongly sent to the torture camp. So we are going to have updates about that from LGBTQ Nation. But speaking of our announcement related to Chicago, so this was not something that we were planning for this week. I think we were thinking about this for the medium-term future. It was definitely on our radar to expand the show because we are the only daily LGBTQ progressive news and talk show in the country. And so I think we take that very seriously, and why you've been seeing partnerships with regional LGBTQ newspapers, because yes, we have our very core audience here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota, obviously being on the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950. But we know through our streaming apps and YouTube and all of that, that we've had listeners in other parts of the country. So this week, because of a end of production for the Randy Rhoads show, and it's very sad that Randy has ended her show that created an opening at WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and they reached out to us and they said that they were interested in the show. They said they liked what we were doing, and so starting this Monday at 8 p.m., hi Chicago. You'll be getting the Gailey Show, rather, every evening at 8 p.m. I'm saying hi to Chicago. I guess our Chicago listeners right now, there'll be more of them starting next week. So we are very, very grateful to them for taking a chance on us and to try us out there. And we're really looking forward to having more to say with our listeners there, more content from Chicago. I mean, we were not planning this when we were talking to Windy City Times about expanding the show there. Like, we didn't know that was going to happen. It's been Chicago week this week, like all great things happening as it relates to that city. So we are very excited about the opportunity, very grateful to the team and leadership at WCPT 820. So yeah, it's happening. But we look forward to that starting Monday, 8 p.m.
Do you think the 8 p.m. time slot means we're helping people digest their dinner? Is that kind of our role?
Well, the way that I see it is that we add some gay sparkle to the afternoons.
Yes.
If you're listening at work right now, there's a little gay sparkle, little queer rage for your afternoons.
Right.
And then, for your evenings in Chicago, it's sort of that, okay, here we go. We're going to have some information, maybe same content. Obviously, it'll be the show re-airing at 8 p.m. But, we can be the lead-in to Matt McNeil in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or, if you have to switch over to Rachel Maddow, I would prefer that folks listen to Matt McNeil as opposed to Rachel Maddow. But, there it is. Everyone to each their own. But well, both of those shows have been killing it lately. Even though I haven't been tuning in, I've been seeing clips from what Rachel's doing because I haven't tuned back into MSNBC. I can't do it. I don't know. It's not in my ability to do. I hear it in the background at home sometimes, and I just listen to 5 minutes of it, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. But that is a story for a different day. The story that I want to start with today is about the economy and new polling. So this is a story from LGBTQ Nation. This is actually a variety of polls. The first one from RMG Research said that if the midterms were held today, 48% of registered voters said they would vote for the Democrat on the ballot, while only 44% said they would vote for the Republican, which is apparently a big swing from February, where Republicans had the lead at 51%, and registered voters said that 44% of registered voters said that they would vote for a Democrat if the midterms were held today. Now, again, I haven't seen the, all the caveats that we were talking about last fall around polling. I haven't seen the margins. I haven't seen, registered voters a little bit better than likely voters, but I also want to, find out who is the makeup of the folks that they were talking to. And, actually, no, likely voters is better than registered voters because likely voters will actually vote. Right. So again, there's all these caveats around polling. But here's where we start to get into I'm going to pull my eyeballs out and scream and throw them at people. Different poll, 42% of respondents said they trust Democrats more when it comes to inflation, while only 38% said they trust Republicans on that issue. Right. I don't even know what to say.
You've heard me say before that the Republicans haven't been good for the economy since the 70s. And I think that's an important point. That's a former truth that, existed 50 years ago. And they continue to run it up the flagpole and nobody challenges them on it. But the Republicans are great for 3% of the population, and they are terrible for 97% of the population. And we're dealing with a lot of false, non-truths out there, right? And so it's hard to counter that, but that's a basic truth. They are terrible with the economy for the average American, and that's the key.
Okay, so I agree. And next week will be just under 6 months since the election, and less than 6 months out, Americans have finally discovered that MAGA and Trump is bad for the economy. It's like, oh, if only there had been somebody. If only there had been somebody or some group of people that could have told us that his economic policies and the MAGA economic policies were going to tank the economy and ruin IRAs for anybody that was planning on retiring this year. I mean, it's like, why didn't we have that in an American democracy? It was an election year. Why didn't anyone say that?
I think.
Oh, wait.
But don't you think that in this day and age, it's now the responsibility of all of us individually to tell all the people we know individually, one-on-one, family members and everything else, to not do the usual enabling crap, that goes on where, I don't want to talk to Uncle George about that. It is now incumbent upon each one of us to make it our personal pulpit to talk to all of the MAGAs we know, if you're still talking to them, and tell them the truth and stop walking away from it. Stop being afraid of it. They're listening to other people lying to them and voting on the basis of those lies. We have to tell them the bald, unvarnished truth right to their face.
Less than 6 months since the election that was all about the economy and how we needed to have a business president. Another April poll by Morning Consult, taken April 11th to the 13th, found that Democrats were more trusted with the economy than Republicans. Oh, and a CNBC poll conducted between April 9th and April 13th found that only 43% approved of the president's handling of the economy, 55% disapproved. It hasn't even been 6 months. And the business president has lost the faith of the majority of this country. Even though the majority of this country barely, actually, let me qualify that. He didn't even reach 50% of the vote in November of 2025. He won the election, but he did not get a majority of the votes. There was no mandate. But it just makes me, again, want to pull all my hair out, pull my eyeballs out, and just start throwing things at people that less than 6 months out from electing the business president who is going to be amazing for the economy. All the grocery prices were going to go down on January 20th. The tariffs were going to bring back all the jobs immediately from, overseas. And oh, wait, not only has he lost the faith of the majority of the American public, now he's pulling back on the tariffs, the magical tariffs, because he's realizing, oh, those actually are terrible for the economy. And I'm just sitting here feeling it for all of the queer folks, and not just queer folks, who are in that 58 to 65 they're 58 to 65, and they are on the landing pathway. They're going the runway to land into their retirement. And now they have to sit there and go, should I retire? Shouldn't I retire? Should I wait a couple more years and see what happens? Like, I had all my plans ready to go for 2025, but now what do I do?
I don't think there's any option to retire now. I think that's, unless you're incredibly fortunate, that's off the table. I think he's pushed our entire standard of living backwards. Wherever you were, you're now much worse off than you were before. And I don't think you're going to recover because, as I said before, he doesn't understand the economy.
The double standard that apparently everyone seems to have is he does something like the tariffs, the Day of Liberation, then has to pull back on it because we all knew it was an absolutely terrible idea.
Right.
Has to pull back on it. And then they're like, oh, well, see, he tried it, or maybe he won't actually do it. But, whatever. It's over now. The tariffs are going to be pulled back on China. We can all go back to normal. If a Democrat did that, there would be pitchforks, and torches burning down the White House. The Democrat would be impeached. We would be moving on to the next Democrat. Like, it would be a complete and utter disaster. But somehow it's like, okay, well, now we just move on.
Well, you and I both know that the economy that the people that voted for Trump wanted was possible with the election of Bernie Sanders in 2016. It was possible to give them what they sought with that candidate as the president that many years ago.
Okay, I'm going to have to move on from the story because if I keep talking about it, I will lose my mind.
Yes.
So we are going to move on from the
Next.
story. A quick break. More to come. You're listening to The Gailey Show.
This is Andy Otto, your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified, inviting you to join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. as we talk to Dr. Kate Getford, Chief Education Officer and Medical Director of the Gender Health Program at Children's Minnesota. We'll talk to Dr. Getford about what it's been like in their world managing disinformation regarding gender-affirming care, and that there is hope on the horizon. Join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Are your remote workers putting your company at risk? Not sure what steps to take to secure your data? Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide with the 5 steps to securely work from home. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. Our station is located on a marsh, and we do our best not to disturb that environment. So I was thrilled to discover Natural Lawn. Their safer products and soil tests ensure that your lawn will be healthy, lush, and green. I don't even have to worry about bringing my furry friend to the station, thanks to the great care from Natural Lawn. I highly recommend Natural Lawn to keep your lawn beautiful, healthy, without compromising safety and sustainability. More at naturalawn.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. I noticed Brett's playing the chill music to calm me down. It is 21 minutes past the hour. For folks who just heard the Grease commercial, I actually have a pair of tickets to Grease to give away. We're going to give it away to the first caller. So 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. This is a complimentary pair of tickets for Grease at Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. May the phone lines be in your favor. Speaking of phone lines, we have Jeff in Cambridge who has some thoughts about our quote-unquote president. Jeff, how are you today?
So I was just got in the car and started listening to your show, and I just wanted to point out the fallacy that too many people fall into. And they say that Trump doesn't understand, the markets or doesn't understand what he's doing. He or the people around him know perfectly well what they're doing. And the sooner we realize that their goal is to destroy the American government and rebuild it in their own libertarian ways, like Project 2025 suggests, I think the sooner we realize that, the better off we're going to be, and it'll mobilize more people.
I think that is a great point. Thank you, Jeff. I think that we can absolutely, when you look at it he is trying to destroy the world trade order, if you will, all these trade relationships with these tariffs so that he can rebuild them in a corporate libertarian way. I think I think you're spot on there. Thank you, Jeff, for the call. Jeff is gone. No, seriously, Jeff, if you're listening, thank you for that. I really appreciate that viewpoint. It does make a lot of sense. I think it's time to stop. I agree. I think it's time to stop treating him like he's just some bumbling, idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. They know what they're doing.
Well, they knew. Yeah, maybe they do. But then the question is, what do you do given that different perspective, which I only partly agree with? What's different about our response to it? He's saying mobilize more people, and I agree with that. To do what? I think all of us are struggling with the what to do. Signing a petition isn't really going to get it done. So it is hard to know how to escalate this.
You know what I would
legally,
love to sign? And this is a question, I think, for a political scientist. Bruce Klopfleisch, who has a show here on Sunday afternoons, Politics Matters. Signing recall petitions of Mike Johnson and all of these, maybe not Mike Johnson, because I'm sure his district is safe, but those districts where it's like, it could flip, it was a 1 or 2 point thing. Like, what do we have to do to recall some of these Republicans for not doing their job and holding the executive branch accountable? That's a petition I could get behind. I mean, I have an amazing representative, so, I'm never going to sign that petition for my district, but that's for those flip districts, that would be a very interesting organizing tactic to do. Moving to a different story. that we are going to continue to cover here because it's just so shocking and disturbing. If you know the story about Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, he was wrongly accused of being a member of the Tren de Aragua gang. And just this past week, Representative Robert Garcia, who is an out gay man representative, traveled with a delegation of Democrats to El Salvador to inquire and find out what is going on with Romero and how do we get him back to the United States. Romero came to the U.S. and was asking for asylum, said that he was being targeted in Venezuela for being gay, and he was being targeted because of his political beliefs. There was an initial screening that said that, yes, this is a legitimate claim, like the claim was evaluated and found to be valid. And so they were moving forward on the expectation, and with his lawyer was that they were going to do the paperwork to make the asylum happen. And instead, he got screened by Charles Cross Jr. at the Core Civic Detention Center. Now, Mr. Cross is a disgraced officer, police officer from Milwaukee.
Yep.
Not only did he drunkenly crash into a house, he allegedly committed fraud while as an officer. And his name was ultimately put onto the Brady list, which is a list of police officers who are considered non-credible for providing legal testimony in Milwaukee County.
Right.
So this is an officer, again, on a list, the Brady list of officers who are considered non-credible for providing legal testimony, is in charge of evaluating immigrants at Core Civic Detention Center. In the evaluation, he said, "Oh well, these tattoos that this gentleman has, they're gang symbols for this gang, so we need to deport him." They were not gang symbols, and nothing else on the form that he was evaluating actually indicated that he was part of a gang. And yet, here we are. So he was part of Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, was part of a group of Venezuelans who were sent to the CICOT torture camp in El Salvador in March. And so Garcia was there with other House Democrats. He was there also to check on Abrego Garcia. So this was the person who was admittedly by the Trump administration, this was an error, was sent to CICOT. They are refusing to release him. Senator Van Hollen from Maryland got a lot of airtime for his visit and trying to, release him and get him liberated. Well, Congressman Garcia was also there trying to find out about the status of Romero, who apparently we don't know what is going on with him or what his status is. His lawyer has not heard from him. There was video of him after he got there when they were shaving his head. But we don't know since then what is going on. So Garcia has sent a letter both to Core Civic and to ICE demanding answers as to what the status of him is. Is he alive? Why is he still there? Why aren't we bringing him back to the United States? In the letter, Garcia writes, I write to express grave concerns regarding the deportation of Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, a 31-year-old gay Venezuelan asylum seeker. He is asking what role that Cross, the, again, disgraced police officer who has declared ineligible to provide official testimony as an officer anyway, now employed by Core Civic. Garcia was asking what role and what documented history of misconduct of Cross has played in getting Romero sent to CICOT. Garcia included several questions about safeguards that were put into place before Hernandez Romero was deported, and gave them, ICE and Core Civic, a May 1st deadline for answers. Garcia told CBS News, "We're not going to be stopped from doing the right thing and standing up for due process and the Constitution." So we will continue to be following this case because it's just, all of these cases are egregious, and it's terrifying what they are trying to effectuate in this country, all of the various things that they're trying to effectuate. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the managing editor from the Windy City Times, Jake Wittich, will join us. Very excited about this official new partnership with the Times. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Daily Show.
Brush up on your creativity at Twin Cities Pride's Paint by Numbers Night Out. Join the fun on Saturday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Pride Cultural Arts Center. Whether you're a seasoned artist or can barely draw a stick figure, this is your chance to relax, paint, and connect with your community. For just $35, you'll get a Paint by Numbers kit, light refreshments, and a fun, relaxed space to let your inner artist shine. Come solo or bring a friend. Everyone's welcome. More info at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Tom Hartman, and you can catch me every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's smart radio for smart people.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
The smash hit musical sensation Frozen is sweeping into Minnesota in a dazzling original production at Children's Theater Company. Running now through June 15th, this live stage production of the Disney favorite will delight audiences of all ages. Enjoy all your favorite songs from the movie, plus mesmerizing new music and stunning sets and costumes. You won't want to let it go. Don't miss the musical event of the spring. Get your tickets today at childrenstheater.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 69. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 45. And Thursday, rain with a high near 57. The Great Wall Restaurant serves up bold, authentic Chinese flavors. From hot and sour soup to Peking duck, their Szechuan and Mandarin menu is packed with favorites. Visit them at 4515 France Avenue South or at greatwallrestaurant.us. That's greatwallrestaurant.us.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thegailyshow. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me, executive producer, Jim Pounds. Were you going to say hi?
I don't know. I sometimes like to
It looked like you were going to say hi, and then you didn't.
I know. I thought about it, and then I decided not
We
to.
are very proud to announce our official partnership with the Windy City Times today. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ+ community since 1985. This year marks the news outlet's 40th anniversary of uplifting queer stories, reporting with pride, and chronicling LGBTQ+ history. Visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ+ news updates. I did. Y'all need to be doing it as well. We will be having bi-weekly on Wednesdays starting today. Jake Wittich, will be joining us. Jake is the managing editor of the Windy City Times, where he reports in-depth stories on Chicago's LGBTQ plus community and oversees the publication's growing newsletter operation. Ari, see the link I said above. Let's start with you. Hi, Jake. Welcome to the Kaylee Show.
That wasn't
Good
clumsy.
afternoon. How are you?
Good, Jake. How are you?
We've been doing like 2.5 hours of programming
Yeah,
already today.
we're doing a
so
marathon.
like my words are fumbling outside of my mouth right now, but so happy to see you, to be starting this partnership with you today, particularly as we will be joining the WCPT 820 family starting next Monday. Also very exciting. So I guess should we start with the concerning story that you've been reporting on, with corporations pulling their funding from a variety of pride events throughout Illinois?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I'm sure you've seen it's a national trend. So I took a dive localizing the issue, seeing what's happening with the state of sponsors for Pride throughout Illinois.
And so which pride events so far have been affected? I mean, there were a number of them I saw in your article.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have two really large Pride events here in Chicago, the Pride Parade and then Pride Fest. And neither of those organizers would talk to me about the situations with their sponsors. So it's kind of TBD. We can circle back to that point. But I spoke with a lot of suburban Pride organizers and then a few in Chicago that are smaller events. And they're all reporting, most of them are reporting that their largest sponsor has backed out or is donating in a smaller amount this year. And there's a variety of reasons people are giving. In the case of Lululemon, they were sponsoring with $15,000. It's called the Queer Fam Pride Jam. It's a family-friendly Pride Fest. This will be its third year in Chicago. And this year they said they're taking their pride, what are they doing? They're taking their pride internally. So kind of vague language. Yeah, really not clear what that means. So it's interesting there. And then others are just saying that due to financial strain with the economy, everything that's happening, they can't donate as much this year.
Lululemon, are they the clothing? They're the clothing company, right?
They are, yeah. I
Boycott.
can't say I've ever shopped there, but don't see myself doing it now.
What other corporations are joining this bandwagon that came up when you're reporting?
Yeah, one of them is Zebra Technologies. They are like a computer manufacturing company based out here in the suburbs, actually. And there's a Buffalo Grove Family Pride Parade. This will be, I forget what year, but it's relatively new. I think it started around 2019. And Zebra Technologies last year was at the very front of the parade. Their logo was on all the banners and everything. And this year they just completely pulled from the parade, again citing taking their pride efforts internally, which is just very vague language. And I don't know what the reason is. Yeah,
it sounds like some PR company. They're like, give us some plausible language that sounds vaguely okay to use to get us out of this.
Yeah, it's strange. And when I ran this story about a week ago, I had reached out to Lululemon multiple times and they weren't getting back to me. But I did just hear from them today, and they are sponsoring another Pride event in Chicago this year. So they haven't canceled all their Pride stuff totally. There is a queer basketball league here in Chicago called Swish, and they're collaborating with them on an event. So they are doing something.
All right, maybe I rescind my boycott.
Right.
It was a little too early, presumptuous. Something that I saw in your article as well was there are concerns about the Chicago Presents grant program.
Yeah, I plan on doing a little bit more digging into this, but that is a grant from the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, and it's supporting local events throughout Chicago having to do with the arts. So the Queer Fam Pride Jam, which Lululemon had previously sponsored, benefited from this grant in the past 2 years. But there's a lot of uncertainty. If you read the Chicago Sun-Times, they've done a lot of reporting on DCASE is what we call that department. There's just some turmoil over leadership. There's a new leader coming in and just questions about transparency. So I still have to jump into that story myself, but I'm going to look into how many LGBTQ events are affected by this grant, seemingly not happening this year, but it still could. There's just not a lot of clarity.
I was curious if you've had any situations like we've had here in Minneapolis about, so Target pulled back, reneged on their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And then our Twin Cities Pride had a conversation with them and then basically said, yeah, no, we're done with you for right now. Okay. Were there any instances of that in Illinois or that came up in your reporting of a Pride organization saying, what are you all doing? No, we're going to cut ties with you.
Yeah, that's one thing so now let's talk about Pride Fest, which is the biggest Pride event we have here in Chicago, aside from the parade. In the past several years, they've been sponsored by Bud Light, which has come under fire for scaling back its DEI efforts. They also have been criticized for their handling a few years ago when they did that campaign with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney, and she got a lot of backlash. They kind of abandoned her and didn't support her very much. And they also pulled their support of St. Louis Pride Fest this year. So I was curious, will Bud Light be supporting Chicago Pride Fest as well? I reached out to the organizers maybe a dozen times of Pride Fest, and they're not getting back to me, period. I noticed Bud Light is not listed as a sponsor on their website, but they did release the lineup, and it doesn't seem like the talent they have booked has been affected by budget changes at all. So just a lot of questions there, whether Bud Light is going to choose to sponsor Pride Fest. And if so, I'm curious what went into that decision-making process. Is there a way that we're vetting our sponsors to make sure they're true allies of the community? Is that important? It raises a lot of questions about the role of corporations in Pride.
Am I recalling correctly, they were a corporation that was sort of on the vanguard of supporting the LGBTQ community, or am I thinking of a different alcohol company?
No, I think you are. I spoke with, there's a longtime gay activist here in Chicago called Gary Chichester, and he was in the very first Pride Parade, which was not a parade, it was a protest march in 1970. And I talked to him just to get his opinion on this whole situation. What he told me is he remembers working back in the day. Bud Light would not step foot in the gay bars. We had this really old gay bar called Little Jim's. It closed a few years ago. But they would just drop the beers off outside. They wouldn't step foot in the bar. So all the gay activists did this campaign and they're like, look how much Bud Light we're selling in our bars. So then they built these relationships with Bud Light. And then Miller Lite and Bud Light would kind of battle, like who can get the gay bar support. So it shows it all comes down to money. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting historical perspective.
I'm also curious. So obviously, Target is top of mind here in the Twin Cities, and the reason. So on another version or another angle of the Target story is that they did all of this. They reneged on their diversity, equity, and inclusion to ingratiate themselves with MAGA and the Trump administration, and yet now they're being sued by 2 MAGA attorney generals. Right? There's just no getting on their good side. Are there any corporations that are maybe starting to go, you know what? Like your tariff day of liberation is screwing us over. There's never going to be a good side with you. So we're just going to push back and say, and you know what? No, we're going to do what's right for us and be part of the community. Like, has any of that showed up at all?
That's a really good question. And that situation where MAGA's then turning on Target, it does kind of remind me of the situation with Bud Light, where this whole handling of the Dylan Mulvaney controversy, they didn't please anyone with the way they handled that. MAGA was still mad that they had this trans influencer in there. Then the LGBTQ community was mad because they didn't back Dylan Mulvaney up. So it is kind of just like you shoot yourself in the foot, I guess. I don't know. But it's complicated. And then Diageo, they have pulled support of the San Francisco Pride Parade. And what they told those organizers was the aluminum tariffs was the reason. It's just too expensive, so they can't afford to sponsor the parade. Smirnoff, which is a product of Diageo, it's sponsoring the Chicago Pride Parade. So I'm just curious about that. I would love to talk to the Pride Parade organizers to get more on that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we will definitely stay tuned to your... Actually, no, I have one more question on that.
Yeah.
Part of the article in there is this ongoing conversation of have prides become too corporate? And so now, and I want to be mindful of how I phrase that question, because I don't want people going, well, here's an opportunity, because it doesn't feel like, I suppose you could pull a silver lining out of this, but the reason why it's happening is that we have a MAGA neo-fascist president who's bullying corporations to say, stop supporting the LGBTQ community. So it feels a little weird to say, hey, here's an opportunity. But there has been this ongoing conversation. I know we've had it here in the Twin Cities of, is it too corporate? And, then finding out that ours is 85% small businesses that are trying to, support this. Like, how were you navigating that in your reporting of, there's this debate, too corporate, not corporate enough, and now here are these corporations that are just saying, no, we're just going to walk away.
Yeah, that's a follow-up I definitely want to do too, just talking to a wide range of people in the community. What are your thoughts on corporations and pride? In my reporting for this story, what I found is not every pride event in Illinois is as corporate as you would think. A lot of the suburban ones are very grassroots. They rely on small businesses and small community organizations, and they really don't have corporate sponsors. So they were telling me they're not affected by corporations pulling out. A few suburban pride events told me those businesses are donating in smaller amounts this year due to just the economy. But then I've heard from a few other suburban pride organizers who've said their small business and grassroots support has actually increased this year, probably because people recognize the importance of pride in this moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, just for ours, Target was giving 50 grand, and within like a day or 2 days, Twin Cities Pride was able to raise over 100.
Wow. Yeah.
It was, people are ready. And you said, you were interviewing that gentleman earlier, I don't know their gender, so forgive me for
Gary, him.
That it was originally a protest, and I'm just kind of sitting here and going, maybe Pride should be a massive protest this year. But
yeah, that's a discussion that's happening in Chicago too, though. The theme for our Pride Parade this year is United in Pride. And some people are arguing that that's a little too soft given the climate we're in. Maybe it should be United in Outrage or something like that. So that is a discussion, and I hope to do another story just talking to people. What does pride mean to you at this moment, and how can we best honor it this year?
Well, we will definitely stay tuned to reporting on that. So there's let's start this story, and then because I got to fit in a break here in about a minute, but there is a school, Shepherd Middle School, that has been pushing back against anti-trans groups targeting one of their students. So can you set the story up for us, and then we can take a break?
Yeah, there is a teenage girl at Shepherd Middle School that's it's in Deerfield, which is a north suburb of Chicago, and she's transgender. She's been using the girls' locker room, and there is a parent who is complaining that her cisgender daughter has to share the locker room with her. So there's a lot of outside forces coming into this community to protest it, but the Deerfield community has really stood up in support of this teenager.
And I want to dive into what that support looks like, because it is absolutely like, yes, this is what we need to be seeing. We are talking with managing editor of the Windy City Times, Jake Wittich, on our first day of our official partnership with the Windy City Times. You can tune in every other Wednesday bi-weekly for more of these Times' award-winning journalism. We are going to fit in a quick break. There's still lots to get to here on The Gailey Show. Be sure to follow us on our Blue Sky. We are at thegaileyshow.org on Blue Sky, where you can keep up with more progressive news, ticket giveaways, and just general hilarity when we can try to have that. Anyway, quick break, more to come. Listen to The Gailey Show.
Find a wide selection of outdoor hearth products at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether you prefer wood or gas, Woodland Stoves has the fire to fit your home. Pizza aficionados know nothing matches masonry oven baking for capturing flavor and nutrition. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces can easily install one in your home or business. Enthusiasts use these ovens year-round for bread making, wood roasting, even grilling.
The mission and passion of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is to make the fire work for you. The way humans relate to fire is primordial. We have used fire to warm our bodies, cook our meals, and kindle our spirits. Our team has the know-how to do this in a clean-burning and environmentally smart way. Visit our store and experience the diversity. We have over 35 working units on display at the corner of Riverside and East Franklin. See us online at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that fits and works for you.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Brush up on your creativity at Twin Cities Pride's Paint by Numbers Night Out. Join the fun on Saturday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Pride Cultural Arts Center. Whether you're a seasoned artist or can barely draw a stick figure, this is your chance to relax, paint, and connect with your community. For just $35, you'll get a Paint by Numbers kit, light refreshments, and a fun, relaxed space to let your inner artist shine. Come solo or bring a friend. Everyone's welcome. More info at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We'll talk about how civics, politics, and law affect you by highlighting a different topic each week. On this week's show, we cover the 17th Amendment to the Constitution, updates in Supreme Court cases, and how Trump is ignoring them, and talk about how Tom Emmer supports sending U.S. citizens to the prison in El Salvador. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch to discover why government and civics matter, and podcast the show anytime on your favorite app.
Hi, I'm Philip Anthony, host of the Downright Upright Show, airing right here on AM 950 Radio, Saturdays at 5 p.m. Join me as I dive into captivating conversations with people from all walks of life. As a proud member of the LGBTQ community, I celebrate diversity and beyond with unique stories that make us fantabulous. Please join me every Saturday at 5 p.m. or wherever you listen to podcasts.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Welcome back to the Daily Show. I am your host, John Parker. It is 9 minutes before the top of the hour. We are here with the managing editor of the Windy City Times, Jake Wittich, on the first official day of our official partnership. Jake will be joining us every other Wednesday starting today to give us all of the award-winning journalism from the Times. Before the break, we were starting the story that you just reported on, which is a Shepherd Middle School being targeted not just by a parent, but it sounds like larger groups were sort of getting involved and asking for an investigation by the feds into Shepherd Middle School.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just this concerned parent that is targeting the student. There's a lot of outside groups from outside the Deerfield community coming into the school board meetings actually to protest the school accommodating this trans student with access to locker rooms that align with her gender identity. So we've got hate groups like Moms for Liberty, Gays Against Groomers, and a couple others that are coming in. And what I found is they're not just showing up at this school board meeting, they're showing up at multiple school board meetings across Illinois, trying to kind of manufacture this outrage that what I'm finding isn't really there within the community.
Unpack that for me more, though, that manufactured rage, because it just seems like there's a small group of people. We've seen this in our book ban reporting. It's a small group of people that are going in and being allowed at school board meetings to get rid of these LGBTQ books. And then when you actually go out in the community, people are like, what is even wrong with that book? So talk to us more about this manufactured rage that Moms for Liberty is trying to effectuate here.
Yeah, it all started with the one parent who first raised the complaint, and she is within the community. But she raised the complaint, and then she ran to Moms for Liberty and Awake Illinois, and then they uplifted it. It got picked up by Fox News. They ran a horrible segment misgendering the student and things like that. And it kind of turned into a national issue. And now everyone's who's against this trans student being supported is saying there's a national spotlight on Deerfield, but they're the ones who put it there.
Right.
Yeah. And I haven't gone to these school board meetings myself. I've been watching the live streams. I don't have a car, but working on it.
You're in Chicago. You don't need to.
Exactly. Yeah. But what I'm finding is a lot of people are speaking at the meetings, and they specify, they first organize it like if you're in the community, you can speak, then people from outside. And in the community, it's overwhelmingly people in support of this student. So
So tell us more about how the administration, how is the administration responding to this and supporting the student?
Yeah, they are doubling down in the fact that they are following the law. Illinois' Human Rights Act prohibits discrimination based on gender identity, which means that this student should be able to access facilities that align with her gender identity. So the superintendent put out a statement basically saying we're following the laws, state, local, federal laws. And additionally, there are private facilities where if this teenage girl, who's not the cisgender teenage girl, if she's really uncomfortable changing in front of a trans student, she can go to a private area. There's, I think they said 6 private stalls in the locker room. There's other private bathrooms. There's other ways that everyone in this situation can be accommodated.
Well, I mean, yes, and thank goodness that you're a state that has the Human Rights Act that is robust. There is a investigation by the Department of Education anyway, though, correct?
Yeah, there's not only into this district, but also Chicago Public Schools. I'm not aware of any situations where there's a trans student being targeted, like in Deerfield. But Chicago Public Schools is very trans inclusive as well. They actually just passed a new tentative agreement on their contract with the mayor or with the city that has even more protections for trans students. So I'll be working on a story about that. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here.
No, that's great. No, I'm glad to hear that you're going to keep picking up with that story, because it's important to hear how all the different school districts are responding to that. We have a few minutes left here. I wanted to talk about a really great organization that you've been covering for a while now, Brave Space Alliance. They've had to go through some restructuring over the past few years, and they're coming into doing some major fundraising, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, on May 15th is their Partners in Dignity soiree, and it's their first ever major fundraising event. Every organization here has galas where people spend thousands of dollars on tickets or hundreds of dollars. And Brave Space Alliance's time to have one of their own. This is not a gala, it's on a Thursday night, it's a soiree. And it's a lot more accessible price-wise. So I really think if people can afford to shell out all this money to support worthy causes, like the Center on Halstead Gala or Howard Brown Health's Gala, which is happening this weekend, they should make sure they're showing up for Brave Space Alliance too.
And what are they doing? Is it a general fundraiser, or are they doing for a very specific cause?
It's a general fundraiser, but the organization is growing really fast. They have an office space or community space on the south side of Chicago that they are outgrowing. I visited several times. It's a great space, but it is small, and their entrance is in an alley. There's a lot of reasons they need to move, including Chick-fil-A just moved in downstairs. So time to go.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Ugh, can you imagine?
Right.
So what are the next steps for the I love the idea of a soiree. That sounds fancier to me than just a gala event.
Nights of the week. That's great.
Right. Yeah. Thursday's a soiree.
Friday's a gala. That's great.
Don't make me laugh. So how do folks go about supporting and get tickets for the soiree?
Yeah, if you go to bravespacealliance.org, I'm sure there's a way through their website to visit ticket links. You can also just make a donation if you're not able to make it to the soiree. But it's a great way to support an organization that's really shown up for Chicago's trans community at every chance. They're at every protest. They're at every press conference. For Advocacy Day, they're going to Springfield with Equality Illinois to advocate for pro-LGBTQ+ legislation. They're really on the ground doing the work.
Well, we appreciate your coverage of them, and that organization, BSA, is just absolutely phenomenal. When you get to learn more about their history, you're just like, wow, look at everything they've been doing for the Chicago community. Jake, thank you so much. We're going to be friends and seeing a lot more of you, which is fantastic. Jake Wittich is the managing editor for the Windy City Times. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be back in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Sign up. Go to windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ news updates. The Matt McNeil Show is up next. After that, Native Roots Radio. And until 2 p.m. tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Queer.
Hey, it's Tom. Even though I don't live in Minnesota, I've spent enough time there to know how quickly the weather can change. One day it's sunny and the